What's going on, everybody? Today I'm here to talk about another Lake Lanier story. Now, this one is a little bit different from the other one that I talked about. And ironically, before I get into this one, there was a story of course, there was a story of an explosion that happened on Lake Lanier the week of the 4th. I think it happened before the 4th. Then, ironically, there was another explosion that happened on Lake Lanier, I think after the 4th or on the 4th. And not the casualties, but the same amount of people that was injured on the first explosion were the same amount that were injured on the second explosion. Now, what's interesting here is that this one didn't involve an explosion, but it did happen at Lake Lanier. And ironically, the same week or within the same week as the first two stories I just mentioned. So this person's name is Logan Young. He's 42 years of age, and this person has been given multiple charges after they say he knocked another man unconscious at the lake. Now, how he knocked him out? I'm going to just say this. He must have been very, very pissed with this person to throw a whole deep freezer at this person, causing them to fall into the lake. I'm like, where in the world did you get all of that kind of strength to pick up a deep freezer? Not a mini freezer, but a deep freezer. Something that usually would probably take about at least two people to carry, and you picked that up by yourself and threw it at someone, causing them to get bumped off and knocked into the lake. A 42-year-old Metro Atlanta man is facing multiple charges after officials say he knocked another man unconscious at Lake Lanier. Hall County deputies said it happened on the evening of July 2nd at a boat slip in the 6900 block of Lanier Islands Parkway. The investigation revealed that a 59-year-old male victim, Logan Nicholas Young, age 42, and two women were on the victim's boat. The HCSO said Young stripped himself of all of his clothes in front of the victim and one of the women, leading to an argument. During the argument, Young punched the 59-year-old in his chest and got off of the boat. According to deputies, the three believe Young went back to his boat and the victim began walking the two women to the end of the dock. Young then appeared and threw a deep freezer at the victim, HCSO said. Deputies said the freezer hit the victim in his head, knocking him out and causing him to fall into the lake. When the 59-year-old regained consciousness, he swam to shore, suffering a large cut to his head. Officials said the victim refused medical attention. He probably only worried about, I'm going to be honest with you, all he probably was worried about more so was getting out of that lake rather than him being hit over the head with a deep freezer. Around 3:15 a.m. the following morning, deputies got an arrest warrant for aggravated assault. Deputies announced themselves several times, but said Young turned the boat lights off and silenced his phone. Hall County deputies then entered the houseboat and found Young hiding under a bed. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, simple battery, public indecency, and 3 counts of obstruction of an officer. Young was booked into the Hall County Jail and posted a $13,230 bond, and he was then released on Sunday. This is one of those stories where you hear it the first time and you have to read it a couple of times, not because you didn't understand it the first time, but because it's unbelievable. Like, I'm still stuck on the part that this guy picked up a deep freezer. When you think of how big a deep freezer is and how heavy that is, and he was able to pick that up by himself and just straight launch it at this person, hitting him in the head, and knocked him out. First off, that guy's lucky to be alive from one, being hit in the head, because he could have definitely been concussed, not saying that he wasn't, and two, he fell in the water, which means he could have drowned in there, and it would have been from that, not necessarily from the lake itself. And two, he's probably, like I said, he's lucky the lake didn't get him, because we all know the stories. Now, they said this story happened on July 2nd, so this happened before what occurred with those two explosions, because I believe that was afterwards. But they didn't talk about the story. This story was reported on July the 8th. It's now the 9th at the time of me recording this video. This is some wild stuff. So you got people fighting down there by the lake and knocking people off with deep freezers and stuff. You got boats blowing up. And of course, you got your occasional drowning. That lake is, I'm telling you, that lake is something there. But this guy is definitely off the chain, and they say he stripped himself of his clothes. I always say that whenever someone just takes their clothes off in front of people just because or anything like that, they probably are on something. If I was the people who was arresting him, he would have to succumb to a drug test, because you don't just strip yourself naked in front of any and everybody, not even half naked, just because. So he might have been on something to do this. And furthermore, I would argue he was on something for him to build up all of that strength to pick up a whole deep freezer and throw it at somebody. The fact that he picked it up is absolutely impressive, not in a good way though, considering what he did after the fact. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this story down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.